All right, fantastic. Okay, well, welcome everyone again. Thank you for joining us today. Today we have our second information session for MedTech Innovator programs. As you all know, we've opened our applications recently, and applications are open until January 31st. And so we are here to tell you a little bit about our programs and answer questions, mainly answer questions. There are a lot of us here today, so I will briefly introduce all of us. Some are more important than others, and I'm going to tell you right away that we have two of our alumni here, very, very important. These are the ones you want to ask questions, and so I'm going to introduce all of us very, very briefly. I'm Ayelet. I'm the Senior Director of Programs at MedTech Innovator. Diane Bowie here, the Program Director for MedTech Innovator, the US program, and Jim West, our Associate Director for BioTools Innovator, and secret, also an alumni of the program. So double whammy right there. We also have two fantastic alumni of our programs here. We have Alex Bellatroni. He's the CEO and founder of Stroke DX. And as you can see on the slide, he's the winner of our 2023 MedTech Innovator program. So hi, Alex. Thanks for joining us. And then on the other side of the video, this is Luc Only, founder and CEO of Limula, and he's the winner of the BioTools Innovator 2023 competition. So who better than them to tell you a little bit about the program, answer questions. We're very happy to have you both here. And let's start. Let's get going. There we go. Okay, so MedTech Innovator. Some of you here on that call already know that. I know we have over 100 people here. Some of you know us. Some of you are less familiar with us. So MedTech Innovator, just briefly, we are the industry's largest nonprofit global competition and accelerator for life sciences. And that includes medical devices, digital health, diagnostics, and life science tools companies. We are growing, expanding to new verticals, and these are our current programs. We'll talk about them in a little bit. Our mission is to improve human health by accelerating the growth of companies that are transforming the healthcare system, and this is what we do across our programs. So how do we do this, and what are we doing? Before we tell you this, we'll tell you a little bit about, I said we're the largest accelerator, and I'm willing to back that up with numbers. And so we have over 612 alumni now. After 11 years in existence, 95% of them are still in business or has been acquired. This is a staggering number. We're extremely proud of our portfolio. Our companies have gone on to raise over $7 billion in follow-on funding, meaning after the program. And again, we are a nonprofit. We do not invest in our companies directly. And so this is all raised after the program, after we've supported them throughout the program. We have 44 acquisitions to date. Again, extremely strong portfolio. You will hear from a couple of them here today. Very proud of them. And then 200, over almost 300 products on the market. And as some of you know that are in the beginning of their journey or in the middle of their journey, it is hard to get a product on the market. And we are here to support you in doing so. BioTools Innovator is our most recently launched program. And in this program, we are very focused on life science tools and diagnostics platforms. We'll talk more about the specific areas of interest, later on as we continue. But this is our third year of operation for BioTools Innovator. We've had almost 700 applicants across those 3 years. We've already supported 43 cohort companies and growing, giving away cash prizes. And our companies have already, despite the early age, already have one acquisition and have gone on to raise over $80 million in follow-on funding. So MedTech Innovator has 3 programs to date. We have our MedTech Innovator US program, our BioTools Innovator program, and our MedTech Innovator Asia Pacific for those of you focused on or based in the Asia Pacific region. So if you have questions about this, by the way, feel free to ask at the end during the Q&A. All of our programs, and the goal of this slide is really to show you that all of our programs, the reason we are successful at what we do and the reason we can do what we do and support all these companies so successfully is really because of our ecosystem. Our ecosystem is the most important part of what we do in our programs. You can see here important names in your respective industries, and that is what we do. We bring on partners. We have corporate partners from all over the industry that are really focused. And this is just the tip of the iceberg, really. What you're seeing here are the formal partners that are involved in the formal selection process. Beyond that, there is an extensive ecosystem of people, industry executives that are supporting the program, if in mentorship, if in selection and input into the program. And that is the reason that we are able to do what we are able to do. And so, very exciting to work with all these partners. And these are the people that you'd be interacting with throughout our programs if you make it in. The other part of our ecosystem that is extremely important are you, the innovators. So in this picture is a little bit of a mix of everyone. This is a picture from our recent Innovator Summit. This is the official kickoff of the program. We'll talk about this later. But you can see here a nice sample of our partners, alumni, and innovators across our programs. Really fantastic event. We'll talk about this later. But the takeaway here is really that the other side of the equation and what we really pride ourselves on in is our alumni, first and foremost. You can see 2 of them, or 3 of them, sorry, here. But we really pride ourselves in having this wonderful group of our alumni that are helping and supporting our companies and have been there, done that. And so that is what we would like to give all of you, a network of people that are like-minded and can be there to support you. And of course, our startups. They are each and every one of our startups in our cohorts have been through a rigorous selection process, and we are extremely proud to be supporting them. And hopefully we'll see some of you in our next cohort next year. So what makes us different? MedTech Innovator, there are a lot of programs out there. We've been out there for a while now. I think we've talked about some of the things that really makes us different. It's our ecosystem. In one word, it's our ecosystem. It's our partners. It is our alumni, and it is our unique team that you can see here. We're really all here for one mission: to support innovators like you across the different verticals, from medical devices to diagnostics to digital health and to life science tools platforms. Some of the things that we focus on during our programs. So resources, I'll talk about those 4 different things. Resources, there's the obvious, there's the competition part. Each one of our programs has a competition at the end. And so Luke and Alex can tell you about winning the grand prize of each of the programs. So it's a nice bonus. And so you'll hear more about this from them and how that contributes. Obviously, visibility is a very important part of our programs for us. So we provide visibility to our companies on our main stage. Our finalists are ones that are presenting during the finals event at the conferences. And all of our companies participate in showcases throughout the program and at our finals event. We'll talk more about this a little bit later. Our community, again, I've said a lot about our community, and this is an important community to get to know, and you'll We're happy to show you a little bit more about who is part of our community later on. And mentorship. Mentorship is one thing we are going to talk about today. And you feel free to ask questions to our alumni here. Mentorship is one of the core aspects of the program. We match each one of the cohort companies with industry executives, either from the medical device industry or from the life science tools industry. You've seen some of the logos up on our partners slide. Some are not there. Like I said, it's the tip of the iceberg. But these are people that are experts in their field, experts on the business side, experts on the fundraising side, or on the on other aspects, depending on what are the specific current challenges or goals that your company has. And that's part, of course, of our selection process. And so after the matching process, you'll be matched with a mentor and work with them throughout the program. This is important for me to highlight because these are people that are difficult to get access to. And this is what we're doing here. We really want to give you access and open doors to people like this and have them be able to mentor you. I'm trying to switch my slides. Okay. So we talked a little bit about the mentorship. The other aspect of the program that we'd like to highlight are the webinar series. So we have an educational curriculum, all virtual, that is done throughout the program. Again, this is very customized to the cohort. We make sure we find out what are the topics that are top of mind for our cohort. And based on that, we build panels that really bring in the relevant people that have been there, done that, can really talk to you at eye level and give you tips and tricks that you wouldn't hear anywhere else. We build our webinars in a way that you can have a discussion. There's a public section of the webinar, and then there's a part where you have an informal discussion only with our cohort. So again, more to talk about, but I want to make sure we leave time for questions. So applications are open. Like I said, our deadline is January 31st for all of our programs. We are hosting another info session on January 4th. If you have last minute questions, we do want to highlight early submission. We strongly encourage people to submit early. We have an early deadline for submission, not deadline, but we have an early submission date, which is January 15th. Early submission gives you priority review, means that more people from our ecosystem, our extended ecosystem, are able to see your application and rate it, which gives it a higher chance of making it into the program. So if you're planning to apply, my personal advice is do it early. And with that, I would like to give the program directors the stage here to talk a little bit about the different programs, specifically MedTech Innovator and BioTools Innovator, and tell you a little bit about how we get to the cohort and to the program. So Diane, I'm gonna give it back to you. Diane,
excellent.
go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you, Diane Buis. I am the director of the West program, and I'm here live, not just on a screen, with Jim, who represents the BioTools program. I'll talk to you about MedTech Innovator and then hand it over to Jim, which is easy for me to do. It's sitting right next to me. The MedTech Innovator program is the flagship program. It's in its 11th year, and that means that it is a large program. We select from a very large pool of applicants. We have a 5% acceptance rate. We expect well over 1,000 applications. That has been the case for the last couple of years. We sure expect that to happen again. That's why we encourage you to apply early so that we can review your application early. And thanks to those who have already submitted theirs. The reason we host these info sessions is so that you can ask your specific questions and, hey, in that box, what should I do? Or, hey, which of these two programs should I apply to? That's why we're hosting a session together. But coming back to MedTech Innovator, we invite the top 20% of companies to pitch at one of our pitch events on our road tour. And so your goal right now is you know, of course, your end goal is to win, like Alex, whom I'll call up in about 5 or 10 minutes or so. However, step one, get into the top 20%, get invited to pitch. Out of those top 20%, the top 5% get into the accelerator program, which is a quarter. So if you're invited to a pitch event, look right, look left. You know, 1 out of 4 or so might make it into the accelerator program. And what I'll say, and that is specific to the US program, that's somewhat different for BioTools Innovator, and I'll leave that to Jim. For the US program, we're talking about 60% of what we call early stage, and the definition of early stage and mid stage is slightly different for the programs. So if you're in MedTech, and we define MedTech Innovator as medical devices, healthcare IT, and diagnostics, as Ayelet well said. So 60% of the MedTech Innovator US program are early stage companies. And for us, as a later stage accelerator, that means you have already most likely raised a pre-seed or seed series, and you are raising a Series A. Now, that's not a hard and fast rule, but we are a later stage accelerator, and that means you are well beyond a prototype and you're gathering early evidence. You might be in a couple of clinical trials. Mid-stage, later stage for us is a company that may be raising a Series B or a Series C. I often get the question, if I'm raising a Series B or Series C, I'm a full-fledged company, why would I even participate in an accelerator program? And what I always say is, what every growth stage company needs is more customers and more investors. And exposure is really how you get to those. And that is why taking part in a prestigious program is really important. And that same breakdown, and it's not on this slide, but I'll say it as well, because I've seen a couple of questions come in regarding geography. And that is for both programs. We do not care where you live or where your company is headquartered. And for the US program, which is what I'm talking about, my question is, where will you focus your attention in 2024? Which market will you be focusing on 2024? If that market is in Asia Pacific, then this is the wrong program for you. But if that market is the US market, this is the right program for you. So I don't care whether you're in Canada or whether you're in Europe or wherever you are. If you're focusing on the US market in 2024, I want you to apply to MedTech Innovator. And so
And I'll jump in,
ahead.
Diane, just to say that for the BioTools program, wherever you're based and wherever your focus market is, this is a global program. And so at the moment, there's no distinction between the focus markets. So if you are a life science tools or a platform or a diagnostic platform developer in any market, focused in any market, you're welcome to apply to BioTools Innovator.
Thanks for that clarification. And I know that I'm kind of belaboring the point instead of passing it on to Jim here. Let's talk about what the next steps are. So for participants in the accelerator program, we go to 2 conferences. We kick off with a summit. Ayelet showed that picture of the summit for 2023. And we put you right on stage at the Wilson Sonsini conference. So we meet for 2 days, and day 3 we put you on stage at an international conference. We do the same thing at the end of the program that will be in Toronto in October. And so 2 conferences. There'll be 5 competitions. We can go into more depth as to the individual competitions during the program. The awards, and you know, people always ask, what can I win? Both early stage and mid stage, and that is specific to MedTech Innovator, can partake in the Best Video Award and the Value Award. And then both programs individually, early stage and mid stage, have a grand prize. And so today we have a grand prize winner of our early stage accelerator program with us, and we'll ask him questions in a little bit. And so and then there are in-kind prizes. But so this is the roadmap of how the program goes, and we'll directly juxtapose that to BioTools Innovator. And Jim will be talking about that.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan. Great job.
Slide.
We have a different slide.
Yes,
BTI.
we do.
It's a younger, simpler program in some ways. We're going into our 4th year at BioTools Innovator. And as Ayelet said, I was fortunate enough to be in the first year's cohort. So full circle for me. But in recent years, we've been getting over 300 applications. And of those applications, we have the same timelines in terms of application submissions, review submissions. We also have a road tour, but it's a different road tour. So our road tour takes place in the East Coast, the West Coast. And if you reside outside of the United States, then we would invite you to a virtual pitch event. So there's going to be 3 chances to come in. And again, we also invite 20% of the applicants to come to the pitch event. And we didn't really touch on this, but I think, one of the cool things about the pitch event is it's valuable. Whether you get into the program or not, you get value out of this event. You're meeting with investors, strategics, they're having conversations with you. They're ultimately the ones who kind of get to decide if you make it in, but by coming, you can establish relationships. Even if you don't come in, there's still value and people can see you. So I think it's a really exciting part of the program. And then once you make it through the pitch event, this year, we're going to invite 20 to 25 companies. In the first year, I think we did about 10 to 12. Last year, we did 19. So this year, we're trying to increase it a little bit and get a few more companies in. But it's one cohort. So we don't have a split of early, mid-stage companies for us. It's just one cohort. And our companies really do span the gamut. We go more from pre-seed all the way up to Series A. Our cutoff is around $10 million in equity funding. But if you're not funded yet, that's okay. We have companies from all those ranges that apply and get in. And then in our program, we have a Best Video Award, which is one of the outcomes of the program. And I think it's so valuable. And I got a lot of value out of it. But that video competition can give you a little bit of cash to take home. And then if you win the pitch event, that's $250,000. And Luke is with us, who won that grand prize this year. And so he can tell you about all the fun ways it is to spend that money.
If I may, Jim, just wanted to add a little caveat. So for mid-stage companies, we've talked about that point of mid-stage, early stage. For BioTools Innovator, as Jim mentioned, it's one program. If you are a mid-stage company that has raised more than $10 million, I didn't talk much about this, but some of our founding partners are actually investors that are very active in the tools space, and some of our ecosystem, of course. And so we are piloting a small mid-stage track. And so if you are a mid-stage company that have raised over $10 million or a Series B, please do apply and make a note of the fact that you are mid-stage, and we'll reach back out to you when this becomes available, as we're building a mid-stage track in this program. So feel free to reach out to us.
With
And back
that,
to Jim. Sorry.
Yeah, that's the overview of the program.
let's talk a little bit about expectations. And so this is a slide that talks about expectations for both programs. I'm going to be talking, and so reiterating what I said, right? For the MedTech Innovator side of the house, early to mid-stage startups, medical devices, diagnostics, healthcare, IT. What we share, which is in that middle bar here, is we want you to be incorporated at the time of the accelerator program. And so we kick off in June, be incorporated by then. For MedTech Innovator, more downstream than incorporated is helpful. But I know one of the questions I saw in Q&A is, hey, if we spin out of the university by the program start, is that good enough? And I would say, probably potentially for BioTools, I'll let Jim speak to that. For MedTech Innovator, you might be too early stage. We think that's a little too early. Having runway to execute on those milestones. If you are about to shut down your company, it's not a pretty thing to say, but if you're about to shut down your company, then we would have hoped you to have applied last year, just because your focus then is on different things. We want you to have just, definitely enough runway to be executing on milestones and to have bandwidth to engage with the accelerator program. Have a prototype, some proof of concept for evidence. And as mentioned, for the MedTech Innovator side of the house, having raised the Series Seed all the way to a Series C, which is a broad swath. And I'll and actually this might be a great time to say what we expect from you. That very bottom bar there speaks to the time commitment. Someone asked about that as well. We expect you to second a senior member, CEO, co-founder, not your marketing manager, really not your business development person, a senior member of your leadership team to get the maximum out of the program. And that goes for both programs. And what we expect, really, if you think about it, this is a virtual program bookended by 2 events, and there are different events for the different programs. And there are different content during the different programs, but the cornerstones are similar. It is, we want you to engage in the content that we provide. It's a virtual program, so it's online content. I would say I'm going to call it 2 to 3 hours a week. Now, that said, that's outside of the mentorship. When you schedule time with your mentors and how frequently is up to you. So make that perhaps 5 hours a week for some of the busier folks. Make that 2 hours a week for other folks. We don't give you homework or so. You're running a company. But that is what we expect. And we expect you for, 3 days in June and 2 to 3 days in October. Those are the time commitments, and we ask that you have a very senior member of your team, ideally a co-founder or a CEO, participate. With that, I'm going to hand it to you to kind of just speak to the differences, or you can say pass.
Yeah, no, I think there are a little bit of differences. One of the big differences between the BioTools program broadly is our companies don't often have the regulatory levels of support. So there's a whole stage of a medical device company ours generally don't have to worry about, which is great. But in terms of like the stage of development and how early is too early, we have had companies in the past who don't have prototypes. Maybe they have some proof of concept. They've got good data from a lab and they're starting to spin the company out. And others already are in the market with commercialization contracts and they're selling around the world. So for us, it's really the range. And I think, like anything in this world, the more substance you have, the better it will serve you. But if you've got a really exciting idea in a really hot market, definitely we want to look at it.
Super. With that, let's talk a little bit about
Actually, I'm sorry.
go
There's
ahead.
a question here that came in that I think is a good time to address here.
Yeah.
So one question that just came in is, do we accept drug companies? And that's a great question. At this stage, the BioTools program, with that lack of focus on regulatory, we aren't really set up now to support and help traditional biotech pharmaceutical companies. So if you're developing a drug to treat a disease, that's probably not a good fit for our program. However, if there's a platform part of it, or a novel way of loading or modifying a gene or a drug or something else, a molecular diagnostic, those things are within the program. So it might be part of your product is not within the program, but there could be another part of your product that is. So if you have questions about that, reach out and talk to us.
And that's a very important distinction, Jim. Thank you for bringing that up, because we basically do, I sometimes like to describe it as we do everything short of the drug, right? So everything leading up to developing the drug, but everything short of the drug itself. So if your pipeline really is a drug pipeline, this is not the goal of the program. And to be honest, none of our programs. So this is out of scope as of right now for our programs. And so just a very important distinction and an important question. Thank you for addressing this. And Diane, I think you wanted to chip in and say something.
I often get the question as to drug device combinations. And so for MedTech Innovator, drug device combinations are in scope. That said, take a hard look. What's the relevant part? Is the novel part of what you're doing the drug, or is it the device? And so if it is mostly the drug, I think this is case by case, but drug device are in scope. And we've had 2 companies of drug device combinations in the 2023 cohort. I always encourage you to look at the portfolio companies for both programs and just see who was in the 2023 cohort, beyond Alex, who won, beyond Luke, who won, and check them out. I think that gives you an idea of strategic interest as well. On top of that, this slide shows you, and this is just a snapshot of the website. It is too small to read. I just wanted you to see that there are a lot of strategic interests, and you should check them out for MedTech Innovator in terms of clinical specialties and solution types, be that AI, be that robotics, be that 3D printing, be that orthopedics or cardiology. There's a ton of things that are in scope. You should definitely check that out. Somebody also asked in Q&A, and so I'd like to address that right away. How do we look at traditionally more underserved areas of medicine? Think of pediatrics or women's health. Those are definitely in scope. And we have in the past had a specific pediatric track within the track, which brings up tracks. We just announced a track in collaboration with the American Heart Association focused on heart and brain health. So that was just announced, I believe, last week. We're going to add that to our strategic interests for the year. So keep coming back. And if you don't find yours, by all means, feel free to send a note to support@medtechinnovator.org and apply. We always encourage you to apply. With that, the strategic interest areas for BioTools Innovator are on the next slide.
Oh, hold on. There we go.
A little bit easier to read here. So our areas of focus is kind of in lab tools. So you've got research products and instruments. So these span a huge gamut, though. I mean, this is research lab equipment, CRO equipment. It could be sequencers, analyzers, scanners. It could be reagent mixers. It can be a whole broad range of things. So it's really products in labs. It's a lot of microfluidic companies, fit within these categories. So it's consumables, it's reagents, it's disposables, things like that. We have diagnostics here. So diagnostics is honestly, I think, one of the more difficult categories for us because we both have arms in diagnostics. So the way we try to sort of present diagnostics in the BioTools Innovator program is, again, if you're a lab developed test, if you've got a CLIA lab and you're running a diagnostic through to get an indication to a condition and you're talking to the FDA and other regulatory authorities, probably a better fit for the MedTech Innovator program. On our side, we're looking more for novel and new diagnostic platforms. So molecular diagnostics and other ways to sort of get to biomarker and diagnostic information.
And I'll jump in here to say that very often our advice to people that are developing, because sometimes, your diagnostics is novel, it's a new biomarker, but you're definitely developing it for a specific indication. Our advice is often apply to both. We are going to triage this later on in the early review stage. Some fit both. So it really does depend on the strategic interests of our partners, and BioTools Innovator is actually growing in the direction of diagnostics. Everything short of a device-based diagnostics, meaning an ultrasound, something like this, could be a fit for both. My strong advice, apply to both, and we'll make the decision later on.
And Ayelet, just so we can clarify here too, if you apply for both, you fill out two separate applications.
Yes, you
One
do.
for each program.
Yeah, thanks for bringing it up. It is two separate applications. You're more than welcome to open two windows and work. The applications are similar but different because it requires, different areas of expertise. And so we ask different questions, but some of them are obviously the same. And so you'll have one user profile, but you will fill out two applications. So
yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
So moving on, we have or R&D and manufacturing services. So, if you're again manufacturing or bioprocessing, or you've got a product and a service or a novel service. All of these apply. So a lot of companies in the BioTools space, they will start maybe with some commercialization validation by launching a service or a lab or something like that to offer sort of some of that initial material to customers. And it's very common to maybe branch from a service to a product or either or. But yeah, services are definitely within our scope of work. And then drug discovery technology. So we've got a lot of people who are looking at AI and other sort of means of helping to improve and optimize drug discovery, to automate and to get sort of new insights there. All of that is within our scope. And we love supporting companies like that.
Shall we talk about timeline? All right. So let's talk about key dates. These are the application dates. We've got both programs on the slide, MedTech Innovator and BioTools Innovator Road Tour. So deadline, hard deadline, January 31st. Get your application in. Get it in early if you can. Don't wait until the last moment, but the deadline is January 31st. We are starting reviews on the programs in the near future. So they get reviewed earlier if you submit them earlier. March through May, we go on the road tour, mostly picking different geographies so that we can come closer to where you are so that you don't have to travel far to come pitch to us. And that goes, for the MedTech Innovator program, East Coast, West Coast, East Coast, Dublin, Ireland. And so for companies in Europe or the Middle East, Ireland, for example, is probably a desirable short flight. We will send out the notifications, yay, you're in late May. And then we'll kick off with the Innovator Summit, which is a combined summit between the programs in June. Then we run the virtual accelerator program. And then in September, October, different dates for the different programs. So not together. So we start together with the two programs in kickoff. And then we end separately simply because the key audiences of investors that need to hear you pitch at your capstone big finals event are different audiences. So those are different dates. So those are your program key dates. Write those down and apply soon. And with that, I think without any further ado, I would love to jump to bringing on Alex.
Actually, before we do that,
go ahead. Sorry.
There's a question, and I think we've said it, but just to sort of clarify, Diane, can you talk about which parts of the program are in person and virtual?
Appreciate that question. Thank you. And so in person is really just the beginning and the end. So send someone for 2-3 days in June and for MedTech Innovator and in October. For BioTools Innovator, the June dates are the same, but then the capstone event is in September.
So I'll talk a little bit more about this. One other thing, the road tour for BioTools Innovator, keep in mind different dates, different locations, East Coast, likely in Boston, West Coast, likely in San Diego or San Francisco. That's usually where we focus. These are the dates for our pitch events. The virtual event, one small comment, if you are a company outside of the US, you have the option to pitch in person. We didn't go in depth into talking about the pitch event. These are very unique. Let me just put it at that. Pitch events, and you get to meet a lot of really relevant people. So yes, recommended to do this in person if you can. We understand that not everybody can, so there will be a virtual option for the MedTech program as well. But this is really for specific cases. For BioTools, if you are outside of the US and would like to pitch in person, which always happens, please let us know. You will have an option in your application to fill out what event you would like to participate in. Regarding capstone event, our finals event and finals competition for BioTools Innovator, we have traditionally done this in partnership with the Meeting on the Mesa Cell and Gene Therapy conference, which was in October, traditionally in San Diego. We are planning to change that this week and expand our interest areas to align with the Biotech Week in Boston. And so this is the plan this year. We are hoping to have a wider spectrum of companies that this will be relevant for. And so we are looking forward to having this new format of the event, more surprises to come. But this will be, we can discuss this later as we move forward. All
I'd like
right.
to jump in before one more time. There were questions around, can you attend several pitch events? And the answer is no. You get to invited to one. If you're so lucky, right? The top 20% get invited. So you get invited to one pitch event. And if that for what, and so we ask you in the application process, hey, if you were so lucky to get invited, which would be your preferred date and time? So, you know, you get the option to check your favorite and your second favorite, and we will try to honor that. But we will contact you and say, hey, congratulations, this is your invitation to this pitch event. And then we hope that you answer quickly and say, yes, we're coming, or, oh, I'm so sorry, we really can't do that. And then we can work with you on an alternative pitch event. And so if you get into a pitch event, respond quickly. We'll happily give the slot to someone else. And then also there was a question regarding, is there financial help to attend the events? And for the MedTech Innovator side, we have traditionally at the Dublin, Ireland event, given the winner of that particular event a travel scholarship to the US program. But that is one company that is winning at one particular event. Mostly, we expect you to spend your own time and money to come and pitch. We highly recommend doing it simply because we bring, and so this is perhaps a moment to share what a pitch event looks like. This is not you on a big stage in front of a room of bored people. This is you at a table with 3, 4, 5 judges pitching to them for 10 minutes, 10 minutes of Q&A. And then moving to the next table, you will be pitching to at least 20 judges, sometimes far more on a particular day. And all the other judges in the room, and for MedTech Innovator, that might be 60 to 80 people, are great people to network with. And so I cannot recommend attending the pitch events highly enough. We try to make them great value, even for the companies that do not get selected to the program. With that, I'm going to pause, look at my colleagues to see if we should talk about something else before I bring up Alex.
Well, we have a million questions in the chat, so let's go straight to our alumni and then have an opportunity to answer some questions.
We've been tackling some of those, and we'll keep tackling them. Alex, welcome. We're so glad you're here. Thank you for being here. It is so exciting to have a 2023 winner among us. My main question for you really is, what are the things that you remember from your application process that you didn't fully appreciate? I would love a before after view of what did you know about MedTech Innovator? How has MedTech Innovator turned out for you to be? What is the wisdom you want to share with the folks on the call?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for having me here. So, for us, we applied twice. So we were a very early stage company. I feel like we were one of the earlier ones in our cohort. And we actually formed our company in January of 2022 and submitted our application to MedTech Innovator at that point without having raised any funds. So we, when we were reapplying this past year, it was actually really helpful to see what we had put in our first year's application versus this current year's application. And really, ultimately, what it comes down to is just telling your story, treating it almost as if it's an exercise for you to learn about your company as well. Some of the questions may seem like something you have never thought of before, especially for early stage companies. And going through that exercise actually was very helpful for us. And again, also seeing our application from the first year was pretty humorous for some of the answers. But really, it's simply just telling your story. And I know the ultimate goal is to try to win the competition, but really the roadshow for us was incredibly valuable. I think we met about 40 judges, of which a lot of them were investors. A lot of them knew the neurovascular and neuroimaging space quite well. So really just put, the best advice I can give is just tell your story simply and succinctly. And if you are reapplying, you're doing exactly the right thing. This is the place to be. Happy to share more about that in a bit.
Luke, we'll let you expand on this and talk about how BioTools Innovator has helped your company. And tell us a little bit more about Lumula, by the way.
Yeah,
Hi.
thank you very much for the invite as well. So Limula is based in Switzerland, so it's important that I stress that out. We come from the other side of the Atlantic. Second, I want to insist that everything that you've heard so far is true. For example, we did the virtual pitch event, and we had a lot of traction after this, although we didn't know that we would be accepted in the accelerator. We had investors reach out, strategic partners reach out. Because it's a lot of exposure already to highly relevant people. I think this is really worth mentioning. I assume that even during this election, you get through judges that may contact you afterwards. But because we went through the pitch event, that was really the trigger for me. We applied in January. It takes a while before you hear back. You already evolve in your journey. And so I think it's really interesting to see how you evolve over the time of the program. For us, the before and after the program was quite big in terms of how we crystallize the differentiation. We spent the summer really working on, are we on the right track? We had little traction before the spring, and then suddenly something clicked. And I think the program was instrumental in not so much maybe crystallizing that differentiation, but really making sure that we nailed it the right way so that we could go out again after the accelerator and raise funding based on that new story. So telling the story, absolutely, but be ready to actually change the story based on the feedback you get outside, but also within the accelerator. And maybe one thing that I wrote down while I was listening is the summer, it's running over the summer, which seems like an odd period to get things done. And so you'll have to manage the mentors. Some of them may take a break. I did take a break as well, but I think it was really good also to be very intense in the first weeks of the program, get as much as possible, slow down over the month of August to reflect on all of that, and then hit that mentorship again in September, October, and validate all the things that you crystallize over the summer. So that break, that slowdown in the summer was actually very, very productive. So I hope that answers the question, but obviously happy to answer more. And on the Limula aspect, maybe very quickly, a quick pitch. We're a Swiss-based company. We build automation for cell and gene therapy manufacturing. So really, again, not interested in the therapeutics themselves, but trying to build a platform that the industry can move from manual production to automated production.
Thank you, Luke. And really disruptive innovation that a lot of our ecosystem and industry experts were so excited about. I'll stick with you, Luke, just to ask you to share a little bit more about your mentoring experience. If you could just talk about kind of who were the organizations that mentored you and kind of how you navigated this mentorship and what was the value of it, and then we'll give Alex the same.
So I had two mentors. One was from an engineering firm. So typically the kind of stakeholders that we deal with a lot, because we don't want to build an engineering company. We have a very lean team and we outsource a lot of the engineering. So understanding, what is the best strategy to outsource different parts of our product. We have a single-use consumable plastics. We have hardware, we have software. So we actually deal with quite a diverse crowd of third-party service providers. And so it was mostly my CTO dealing with this mentor. Although I was the person participating in the program, I basically outsourced these conversations to my CTO because they were much more relevant to him. So maybe that's one of the advice I would say. Give everything you have, but it's not a program that you follow. It's actually a program that you lead. So do what you need to do and make sure the mentors are supporting you in that process. They will be very flexible in adjusting for example, me swapping my role with my CTO, talking to one of the mentors. The other one is somebody very close to product in a large BioTools company, and she really helped me in that case understand what are the next steps? How do we go from a prototype to building a product? But also how do we market that product? How do we frame the communication to customers? How do we sell the product even though the product is not ready? And so that was me mostly leading these conversations.
Yeah, and I think that was a really smart advice, you know, the tools, strategics, you know, having these discussions with Luke as the CEO and having the CTO focus on the engineering aspects. I think that was a really, really solid advice for people here. Not everybody has two mentors. It really depends on the needs and the focus of the company. And so it really is case by case basis, but a lot of our companies do. And we try to tackle different things. And Alex, you want to maybe jump in on mentorship?
Yeah, Luke, that's we did the exact same thing with, you know, so I'll give a little bit of background about Stroke DX2 and provide context for what mentors we got as well. So we have a portable neuroimaging system. We're a tech transfer out of Caltech that enables us to provide point of care neuroimaging for stroke patients across the entire continuum. So we actually have two products with the same base technology. That our first handheld product is deployed in the EMS and the ED space to rapidly rule in stroke, get patients down to stroke care sooner. And then we also have an inpatient product that's bedside that can monitor stroke over time in neurocritical care and in neuro rehab. So for us, similar to Luke, we had mentors that were across a very diverse spectrum, and we're very grateful that when we got assigned our first few mentors, I asked for a couple more because there were a few that could be very helpful for us. So our main mentors were Johnson & Johnson, Asahi with Rev1 Engineering, as well as ERI and Valentium. And we asked for a few more. So you can see kind of we had people that knew the neurovascular space and the commercial space quite well, but as well as the engineering, manufacturing, because we're at the stage we are is kind of in the transition between design house to manufacturing, for which we have heard repeatedly that there's a big hiccup that a lot of companies go through when you go from kind of that prototype to MVP design freeze and then transition it to manufacturing. So for us, we met at least every other week, some mentors more frequently, and really you get what you put into the program. We had and like Luke's mentioned, I had assigned our CTO and the individual kind of running more of the engineering efforts to a lot of the engineering and manufacturing calls, and then with myself, I took a lot more of the commercial calls. And kind of just the calls that accelerated our network into the neurovascular and the neuroimaging space. So the mentor program, you do get assigned mentors, and they are the experts in the space that I still actually communicate with on a every other week basis. So it's weird to say we're alumni because we still are very much benefiting from these mentors, and we actually are working with one of them, which I don't know if MTI folks know this, but we just hired one of our mentors because of the conversations that we had with them. So this program is just incredibly valuable, and again, you get what you put. What you get out of it is what you put into it.
That is 100% correct, and I like that you said this, and I think it's true for both of you, and it obviously paid off as you both won, and so your mentors were extremely impressed. I will add because I see a question here about how do we make the match. It is a lengthy and involved process to match the mentors to the companies. There are many different facets. I can't really go into all the details, but I will say that we from multiple reviewers on your application and on conversations we have with our mentors before we start the program and with the company. And so once we understand the exact goals and gaps that people identify from our ecosystem in your company, that's how we kind of build the list of goals with you and base the mentor matching on that. So kind of done behind the scenes. I think we've done a good job of this over the years. Luke, I think you wanted to add something. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think I want to support this process because the people, the team of BioTools and MedTech Innovator you have in front of you are actually very knowledgeable and very helpful. They ask the right questions. They will be helping as much as the mentors. So don't consider the team as some back office people. I think they're really front and running the show and doing the right choices when it comes to matching and everything. I was really impressed.
Thank you for that.
Absolutely.
We'll take it. Yeah. All right, questions. I think we have a lot of questions. I know we won't get to everything, but
Could we briefly, given that there were several questions as to how the programs make money, could we briefly go to the slide that speaks to the sponsors and partners? I think you mentioned it, but it sometimes gets lost. And so I'd like to address that directly with this slide. Thank you. And so what you can see is the three programs. We've got MedTech Innovator, BioTools Innovator, and MedTech Innovator Asia Pacific. Each of them have their own partners and sponsors. And so this is how we make money. We are a nonprofit. So you are not paying us. We are not selling your information. Also on that topic, somebody asked if we're under NDA. You're not under NDA with us. We're not under NDA with the judges and reviewers of your application. So write what you feel comfortable with. But to come back to how do we make money, our partners and sponsors pay us as sponsors. They're intimately involved in selecting the applications beyond just, I cannot be, there we go. Beyond
You're
just,
invisible.
I was
Yes.
invisible. I'm a disembodied voice. So our reviewers and pitch judges hearken from our partners and sponsors who play an integral role in mentoring the companies during the program as well. And from our ecosystem, and that goes for all the programs. We have a phenomenal ecosystem of supporters. So with that, thank you for that. And I think you were going to show us some of the testimonials, given that we just spoke to some of our winners.
Yeah, and while we take some questions, feel free to read these, feel free to reach out. We're happy to connect you with more of our alumni. We have two from the MedTech program on the left side, two from the BioTools side. I'm quickly going, my apologies, quickly going to jump to that page to give you an opportunity to scan these, just so if you need a direct link to our applications, please feel free to do so. I know there were a couple of questions about the APAC program, the Asia Pacific. If you go to the MedTech Innovator website, you will find the MedTech Asia Pacific program there as well, and you'll be able to apply to that program as well. So just kind of an opportunity to scan these codes. Jim and Diane, feel free to pick questions from the Q&A and answer.
Wonderful. I will say we have tackled most of them, and if we run 1 or 2 minutes over, we fully understand, and we will send out this recording to people. One of the questions was, how does the accelerator help us find customers? I will answer that from the MedTech Innovator side. If you look at the YouTube channel, where we record the first portion of most of the webinars before we go into private Q&A for the companies, you can see that we have on the MedTech Innovator side the who is who of hospitals, the who is who of the types of people you would want to sell to, and you have an opportunity to ask these people direct questions. So as well as part of the reviewers, right? The ecosystem of reviewers is our partners and people of the type that would buy your products, and so they learn about you throughout the application process. Then was there a question that you wanted to jump in on? Let's tag team.
Yeah, we can tag team. So there's a lot of questions about stage of company, and this one is non-dilutive funding, 300,000 through grants, but not a formal seed round. Is it too early for MTI?
I would say it's hard to say. I always encourage people to apply. There is nothing negative about applying and not getting in. And so you should have most of your materials ready to go anyway. It'll take you an afternoon or so to apply. In the worst case, you don't get in this year, but you might get some feedback, which is helpful. And then come back next year. Alex shared that he applied twice.
In fact, many of our companies apply twice or 3 times before they get in. So really don't be deterred by applying too early. You may not get in the first time around. I will say specifically to that question with the non-dilutive funding and generally speak to stage. So non-dilutive funding definitely considered as part of runway, and we consider that as a validation as well. Yes, it's a positive signal. you should apply. If this is the right program for you, definitely apply. It is a case-by-case basis. So there could be, I'm going to give you an example. So if one of our strategic partners will say, oh, we're right now very interested in so-and-so. This is our main area of interest. And there's a company that really has a stellar innovation, but they are earlier stage, they will get in, right? So all things considered, of course, you know, comparatively to others, they could get in, they could find themselves in the program. Never say never is my point. I think that even with an early stage companies, and we've seen this happen before, and we've seen companies that we said, you know what, this is amazing, come back in a year, which is great because it's already opening the door for you. And as Luke mentioned, people might reach out to you later if you're invited to pitch, moreover, right? So definitely recommend doing that for BioTools specifically. When it comes to the stage, yes, the preference is prototype and up. We want companies to be in a place where we can really, where we can optimize how we help them. But I will say we keep a mix of very early stage, out of university, to companies with $8 to $10 million already in the bank. We keep that mix intentionally. There are benefits to this for all the companies. And so again, like I said, we're piloting a mid-stage track that will not stop for us from having that mix within the program. It will still be part of the program. I think it's important. I think it brings diversity into the cohort. I think it brings value to everyone participating in this. And so my strong recommendation is yes. And again, keep in mind, you may get feedback and say, look, come back next year. We want you to come back next year. So keep that in mind, but encouraged.
And on that, I think just to answer a question that just came in, and what type of feedback can you expect? I will be honest and say a lot of companies don't get any feedback. However, we are working on a way to provide more feedback to all applicants. Keep in mind, and somebody else asked, can we get a review of our application? On the MedTech Innovator side, we before we send it out to reviewers, on the MedTech Innovator side, we expect well over 1,000 applicants. Giving you my personal opinion as to whether your application is great or not is simply too onerous. That's why we work with such a large group of reviewers. We do not make a decision on any application unless it has been reviewed by at least 3 people, often up to 10 people or so. So not one person will single-handedly sync your application. So, but to come back to the feedback question, you may not get any. You may get some really valuable feedback. You will get a ton of really valuable feedback if you get invited to a pitch event. So aim for that. And
even before pitch event, just jumping in here, if you applied, sometimes the reason there's a variability is that there are fields in the application where we ask the reviewers to provide anonymous feedback. Not all of them provide that. Not all of them want to give that piece. Some of them do, a lot of them do. And so if you've applied, we don't systematically reach out to you with feedback if it's not after a pitch event. However, if you've applied and you would like feedback and you didn't get into the road tour, please reach out to us. We will do our best to go through all of our reviews and find the anonymous feedback and summarize that feedback for you and give it to you. So by all means, we're here to help, and we want to give you feedback on how to be better prepared for next year if needed.
And August is a great time to ask for that feedback, not before July, August, simply because we're still reviewing other companies. We will not comment on your application until we have selected the cohort. How do we decide on companies? How does one stand out? That's a really hard question, but I think I owe it to you to answer that question, Neda. It is product market fit. It is how disruptive is this? It is the team. It is the progress, especially if you've applied several times. I'd love to know, how did, you know, what changed since last year? What changed since 2 years ago? And on top of that, I will say it is sometimes also fit. Our strategic incentives change. And so I always encourage people to reapply. It is always a good idea to reapply. And
And on
go
that
ahead.
point, I think really to add to that, strategic interests change, as you know. So, you know, our strategics, like every other company, you know, has a quarterly meeting and an annual meeting, and strategic interests change. And so we've seen so many companies that were not within scope 1 year and were within scope in another. That page that Diane showed earlier for MedTech Innovator and what Jim had shown for BioTools Innovator, it is inclusive, but not necessarily everything that would be under our scope. You shouldn't be deterred if you don't find your specific technology there. Feel free to reach out to us, which is a point I was also driving towards. I wanted to say that please feel free to reach out to our team with any questions. We made it very easy for you. Take our first name at medtechinnovator.org. So this is us. Please reach out to us. Let us know if you have questions. We're more than happy to get on a quick call or assist via email. So Jim, Diane, anything else? Any other questions? I know we're over time, so.
There is a question here. Basically, we have a seasoned team. What type of small, medium enterprises do we have that would serve to build use cases for their particular technology? And one thing we didn't really cover here because there's too much, the companies we showed you, those are our sponsors, but we have a huge ecosystem of participants that aren't on that slide. So there's a lot of companies in the space in these fields that participate at all these different stages on our end, from the reviewing and the pitching and mentoring and those things. So I think if you have some specific goals within the program, if there's specific people you think would be valuable to get their perspective and opinion and they're part of our program, I think we can facilitate those conversations and introductions.
And with that,
Absolutely.
let's you and I move a little closer. We're kind of we're kind of weird with a virtual background, but it's nice to sit together and do this webinar. We want to thank our panelists. Alex, on behalf of the MTI team, so glad to see you and to see your continued success. Thanks for joining us today.
And Luke, thanks for coming on and helping us as well. It's been a pleasure to see you through the program, and wishing you obviously the best of luck in the future as you're growing.
And looking forward to seeing some updates from all of you, as always.
Yes. No, thank you so much. And I want to just echo two things that I think were really important for us as well that weren't mentioned on this call, which there's a lot that mentioned of how incredible this program is, but there are also assets you build throughout this program that currently I am benefiting greatly from, that with respect to things that can go straight into a data room for investors that have the MedTech Innovator logo on it, that, you know, are essentially like a diligence survey and your value. Those are incredibly valuable assets to have, that has the MedTech Innovator kind of stamp of approval on it. The second thing is the alumni network. So there's an incredible amount of mentors that you get in this program, but some of the mentors that I'm getting a ton of benefit from and will continue to benefit from through Stroke DX and through the rest of my career in MedTech are the alumni. I have regularly scheduled monthly calls with individuals that I met in our cohort and beyond. So just wanted to make sure that was also very clear that that's a huge pro of this program.
Thank you, Alex. This is a fantastic point to drive the point home. And I will say the summit, the Innovator Summit, the formal kickoff of the program that we've mentioned before, these are the 2 days in June in San Francisco. This is where you get to meet and learn from in active workshops and sessions from our alumni. So hopefully we'll see both of you there in June, and a lot of other alumni, which we're really looking forward to seeing some of you here on that call as our cohort members, hopefully, in that summit. So that's one opportunity, but one of many to be part of our alumni network. So thanks, Alex, for bringing it up.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. I know we're over time here. Thank you for your patience and staying here with us. We're here to answer questions. Feel free to reach out via email. As always, our team is ready for your questions, and we're looking forward to seeing your applications. Have a great rest of your day.
Onwards. Thank you. Bye.